In this textile factory, a worker notices a wrinkle forming in the moving fabric and makes a split-second decision to intervene while the equipment remains in operation. Never, ever make contact with a rotating roller or spool while it is in motion. High on the face of a massive dam, a worker stands on a scaffold connected to a crane section as operations continue. Over time, a key support connection begins to shift. Heavy machinery relies on verified anchor points to maintain stability under operational load. When a single connection point degrades due to fatigue, corrosion, or improper installation, the structure may no longer consistently support its intended operational forces. Inspect every bolt and anchor daily for early indicators of movement, cracking, deformation, or fastener loosening. On an industrial pier, a crawler crane lifts heavy steel piles. As the load moves outward, the crane operates outside verified stability limits. Never exceed a crane's approved load radius. Crane stability depends on leverage, counterweight balance, and ground support. As a suspended load moves farther from the crane's center, its overturning influence increases and shifts the center of gravity toward the edge of the stability zone. Once this limit is reached, the crane is operating outside its verified parameters, and stable control may no longer be assured. When working on docks, barges, or backfilled surfaces, verified leveling and confirmed ground-bearing capacity are essential, as even small surface changes can reduce the available stability range. At an active road paving site, a worker focuses on ground-level tasks as heavy equipment operates nearby. Unaware, a large roller begins reversing into the work zone. This scenario highlights the visibility limitations of mobile equipment. Large rollers are designed for compaction performance, not close-range awareness. Operator position, machine size, and restricted sightlines can make nearby personnel difficult to see, especially in noisy or task-focused environments. Maintain strict separation between workers and operating equipment. Use spotters where visibility is limited and enforce clear exclusion zones around moving machinery. Workers on foot should remain outside travel paths unless direct communication is confirmed and the equipment is fully stopped and verified stationary. In a loading area, a worker stands near a trailer as a forklift approaches with a tall load. Limited visibility prevents the operator from seeing him. Never assume an operator can see you simply because you can see the machine. Forklifts transporting tall or bulky loads frequently obstruct the operator's forward line of sight. In these conditions, the forklift is operated with limited direct visibility, relying on established traffic controls and positioning judgment rather than continuous visual confirmation. Forklift operators must travel in reverse whenever a load obstructs forward visibility, using audible warnings and controlled speed where appropriate. Pedestrians should never enter a forklift's travel path unless direct eye contact and clear acknowledgement have been established. At this transport yard, a worker positions himself on a low-bed trailer to guide a bulldozer during loading. During the transition phase, the trailer begins to shift from its established resting position. Never, ever stand on a trailer or vehicle during loading operations. This represents an unintended movement exposure. Trailer braking systems are designed for transport holding conditions, not for dynamic loading forces. If air pressure fluctuates, coupling connections adjust, or weight distribution changes unexpectedly, the trailer may begin to move. Before loading begins, trailers must be mechanically secured using wheel chocks on both sides and verified ground contact. Relying on air brakes alone is not an acceptable control method. Also, guiding and signaling must be performed from designated safe locations on the ground, positioned clear of equipment paths, and any potential movement zones created during loading. At a warehouse dock, workers pull a tall pallet from a shipping container using a manual pallet jack. As the load transitions onto the ramp, the center of gravity shifts. Manual pallet jacks do not provide assisted braking or load stabilization. When used on a downward slope, gravity accelerates the load beyond what can be reliably managed through handle force alone. Transition points between flat surfaces and inclines further reduce stability for tall, top-heavy loads. Tall pallets must be broken down into lower, more stable configurations before ramp movement. Inside an industrial facility, a worker enters a machine enclosure to perform a minor adjustment. Shortly after entry, the equipment initiates a motion sequence. This scenario reflects a safety interlock control deviation. Safety gates, light curtains, and access doors are designed to immediately remove motion energy when opened. If equipment continues operating while an access point is open, it indicates a bypassed, misaligned, degraded, or inadequately maintained protective system. Workers must verify that opening a safety gate results in a complete and immediate stop before entry. Daily stop function testing should be mandatory and documented. In a workshop, a crane lifts a suspended load while setup activities continue below. At the same time, a forklift enters the same work area. Cranes are engineered to manage vertical load forces, not lateral interaction. When mobile equipment contacts or influences a suspended load, horizontal energy transfers through the rigging into the crane structure. These forces can exceed design tolerances, leading to structural stress, rigging overload, or component deformation. Active lifting zones must be clearly defined and physically isolated to prevent vehicle entry. Barriers, signage, and procedural controls should be used to eliminate traffic conflicts. Forklift operators must maintain controlled speed, travel appropriately when visibility is limited, and remain continuously aware of overhead operations and designated lifting areas. At a busy port, a crane positions a heavy load above a waiting flatbed. During the final positioning phase, the rigging performance degrades. When stable control of a suspended load changes at elevation, gravitational forces become the dominant influence on load behavior. Load response may vary with rigging configuration, tension redistribution, and structural interaction, introducing additional mechanical stress on equipment and surrounding systems. Strict exclusion zones must be enforced beneath all suspended loads, regardless of lift duration. Rigging components must be inspected daily for wear, deformation, and proper configuration. Lift planning must always account for potential component underperformance and be designed to minimize exposure time and keep all personnel outside the lifting and landing envelope. In a cement processing yard, a worker accesses the top of a bulk tanker during routine operations, but then an unplanned system condition develops. Bulk powder tankers operate using compressed air systems capable of storing significant energy. If vents become restricted or pressure relief components do not perform as intended, internal pressure may increase, creating an unstable operating condition during access activities. Always verify that internal pressure has been fully released before opening hatches or accessing tanker tops. Pressure gauges must be checked and blow-down valves open to confirm depressurization. Relief devices should be inspected regularly to ensure they remain functional and unobstructed. Accessing a vessel while pressurization is still possible must be strictly prohibited, and procedures must require positive confirmation of a zero pressure condition before access or entry.